I cut the power to my own ranch while 100 people were dancing under white tents, because my son's wife had introduced herself all night as the woman who owned it. The band died in the middle of a country love song. The microphone cracked once, then went silent. The string lights Brooke had paid 3 men to hang from my live oak trees blinked out at the same time, and the whole back pasture fell into a dark so complete that even the rich people from Austin stopped laughing. For the first time in hours, I could hear my own land breathing again. Not clinking champagne glasses. No hired bartender shouting over music. No women in heels pretending they knew the difference between a ranch and a wedding venue. No men from my son's real estate circle standing with whiskey in their hands, looking around my family land like they were already measuring it. Mirage. My house. The 417 acres outside Fredericksburg, Texas, that my father left me when his hands were too bent from fence wire and cattle rope to sign his own name without shaking. The land I kept alive after my husband, Hank, died in our bedroom with the windows open and the smell of cedar blowing in. The land my son, Caleb, swore he would come back to protect after college. He did come back. But not to protect it. He came back with Brooke. I found out about the party from Facebook, of all humiliating ways. Not from my son. Not from a neighbor. Not from a phone call that started with, "Mom, can we use the yard?" I found out because Marlene from the feed store called me at 8:13 that night and said, "Eleanor, I didn't know you were hosting such a big event. The cars are backed up all the way Toth County Road." I was upstairs in my own bedroom, wearing my old blue robe, sorting through a box of Hank's medical bills I still hadn't had the heart to throw away. "What event?" I asked. Marlene went quiet. I walked to the window before she answered. From the second floor, I could see everything. White tents in my south pasture. Gold balloons tied to my split-rail fence. Round table set up where my father used to teach Caleb how to throw feed. A dance floor laid over the grass near my mother's old rose beds. And people. So many people. Men in pressed shirts, women with fresh blowouts, girls filming everything on their phones. They moved across my property like I was dead and they had inherited it already. Then I saw Brooke at the center of it all. She wore a red satin dress that looked too expensive for ranch dirt and just bright enough to make sure every camera found her. Her blonde hair was pinned back like a pageant queen's. She stood in front of me front porch, raising a glass, while Caleb laughed beside her in a white shirt I had ironed for him 1,000 times when he was younger. Behind them was a sign. "Happy 35th birthday, Caleb. Welcome home to the Whitaker Ranch." I did not remember agreeing to welcome anybody. Marlene's voice came through the phone. "I'm sorry, honey. I thought you knew." I hung up without saying goodbye. Then another notification flashed across my screen. Brooke had tagged the ranch in a post. She had taken a photo at my front gate, her hand on Caleb's chest, both of them smiling under a banner I had never approved. The caption read, "Our home. Our future. Our family." I stared at those words until the room blurred. Our home. She had been married to my son for 11 months. I had lived on that land for 62 years. My father had built the old stone house with his brothers. My mother had planted the pecan trees. Hank had repaired the barn roof after the 1998 storm with a broken rib and 3 neighbors who showed up before sunrise. I had paid the taxes, buried the dogs, delivered calves in freezing rain, fought drought, dealt with bankers, patched fences, signed checks, and sat alone in that house every night after Hank's funeral. And Brooke had typed "our home" like she was naming a vacation rental. I stood there longer than I should have. Long enough to hear them cheer when Caleb blew out candles on a cake I did not bake. Long enough to watch a man I recognized from a development company pat my son on the shoulder and point toward the West Ridge. Long enough to see Brooke lead a group of women through my side garden, laughing as she touched the porch columns and said something that made them look up at the house. One of them looked at my bedroom window. Then Brooke looked too. For 1 second, her smile changed. Not into surprise. Into satisfaction. That was when I understood she knew I was upstairs. She had not forgotten to invite me. She had staged the party around my absence. I went downstairs slowly. My knees were not weak. My hands were steady. That frightened me more than anger would have, because I had known anger before. Anger shakes. Anger burns. This felt colder. This felt like the moment before a storm breaks a tree in two. I passed through the kitchen where my mother's cast iron skillet still hung over the stove. On the counter were trays of appetizers I had not ordered, boxes from a bakery in Austin, 6 empty wine bottles, and a clipboard with Brooke's handwriting. Vendor load in, 3 o'clock guest arrival, 6:30 toast, 8:00 drone shot, 8:45 fireworks, 9:30 fireworks. On my drought-dry pasture. I walked past the mudroom, past Hank's old boots, past the laundry room, and out to the utility shed beside the windmill. The generator room smelled like diesel and dust. My father had installed the first one in the 70s and taught me very switch before he taught Caleb. Land doesn't keep itself, Ellie used to say. People either honor it or use it up. My hand closed around the main breaker. Outside, a woman screamed, laughed at something, and the music got louder. Somebody shouted, "To Caleb and Brooke, the future king and queen of the ranch." Caleb did not correct them. I pulled the breaker down. Darkness dropped over the party like a judge's gavel. The music cut. The tents disappeared except for pale shapes under the moon. Somebody shrieked. A glass broke. A man cursed. The little solar lights along the path stayed on, dim and useless, making everyone look like ghosts trespassing on a grave. I stepped out of the generator room and walked toward them. My robe moved around my ankles. My bare feet sank into the grass. My hair, which I had not brushed since morning, fell over my shoulders. I must have looked like an old woman wandering from a nightmare. But I was not wandering. I was coming home. "Everyone get off my property," I shouted. The talking stopped in waves. I kept walking until I reached the edge of the dance floor. A few people recognized me. Most did not. That hurt in a way I did not expect. I had raised church fundraisers, hosted 4-H meetings, fed neighbors after floods, and somehow a whole party stood on my land looking at me like I was an interruption. "This party is over," I said. "You were not invited by the owner. You do not have permission to be here. Leave now." A young woman near the dessert table whispered, "Is that Caleb's mom?" Another voice answered, "I thought she was sick." Sick. Brooke had told them he was sick. Caleb pushed through the crowd, his face red even in the dark. "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" I looked at him. My only child. The baby I had carried through July heat while Hank drove cattle 40 miles north. The boy who used to fall asleep in my lap smelling like sun and hay. The teenager who cried into my shoulder when his first horse died. The man now standing in front of me like I had embarrassed him by existing. "I'm taking back my house," I said. "You cut the power to my birthday party. You threw a 100-guest party on my ranch without asking me." His jaw tightened. "We live here too." "No," I said. "You have a room here because I let you come home after your condo deal collapsed. That is not the same thing as owning it." A few people gasped. Caleb looked at the crowd, humiliated, and that made him angrier. Brooke appeared behind him, walking carefully over the grass in heels. Even in the dark, she kept her chin lifted. She had always been good at performing calm when she was cornered. "Eleanor," she said, like we were friends. "This is unnecessary. You told people I was sick?" Her expression flickered. "I said you were resting," she replied. "You've been under a lot of stress." I was upstairs in my own bedroom while strangers drank champagne under my trees. "Because we didn't want to overwhelm you." "No. You didn't want them to see me." Caleb stepped closer. "Mom, stop. People are recording." "Good," I said. "Let them record. Let them hear that this land is in my name, these buildings are in my name, every tax bill comes to me, and not 1 inch of it belongs to Brooke." Brooke's smile hardened. A man in a blazer came forward holding his phone. "Mrs. Whitaker, I'm sure this is a family misunderstanding. We were invited by your son. My son cannot invite you to steal my electricity, trample my yard, and set off fireworks on my land." The man lowered his phone. Caleb leaned in and spoke low enough that only I could hear. "You're making me look like an idiot." I almost laughed, but it would have sounded broken. "No, Caleb. I'm just refusing to keep pretending you're a man." His face changed then. The little boy disappeared. Something colder took his place. "You have no idea what you're doing," he said. "You think this place can keep running on pride and old stories? You're 62. You can barely keep up. I kept it up while you were losing other people's money in Austin." Brooke touched his arm. "Don't." But he did. "You want me to spend my life fixing fences and begging the bank not to raise rates?" he snapped. "This ranch could be worth millions if you'd stop treating it like a shrine." The crowd had gone silent again. Every word landed in the grass between us. "A shrine," I repeated. "That's what it is," he said. "A shrine to Grandpa, Dad, and every dead person you refuse to let go of." That was the first time he had used Hank against me. I felt the blow in my chest, but I stayed upright. Brooke lifted her voice just enough for people nearby to hear. "Eleanor, we all love you. But this kind of outburst is exactly why we worry. You shouldn't be alone making big decisions anymore." There it was. Not anger. Strategy. My eyes moved from her face to Caleb's. He looked away. "You planned that line," I said. Brooke's mouth opened. "You planned the party, the post, the guests, the speeches. You planned to introduce yourself as the lady of the ranch while I sat upstairs like a piece of old furniture. And now you're planning to make everyone think I'm unstable." Caleb said nothing. That hurt worse than Brooke's smile. I turned to the guests. "Go home. Every car off my property in 10 minutes, or I call the sheriff." That finally moved them. The party broke apart in embarrassed silence. Women lifted their dresses out of the grass. Men avoided my eyes. The bartender packed bottles into crates. The photographer lowered her camera. A teenager unplugged the dead speakers. Someone whispered, "This is insane." Someone else said, "I'd leave too if my mother-in-law did that." I watched 100 people walk away from the party they had thought belonged to my son. Brooke stayed until the end. When the last taillights started crawling down the driveway, she came close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume. "Enjoy your little victory," she whispered. "Very soon, this ranch will bores anyway." I turned my head slowly. "What did you say?" She smiled without showing her teeth. "Nothing you can prove." Then she walked away, her heels sinking into my grass like she hated the earth for not bowing under her. I did not sleep that night. I sat on the back porch in Hank's old jacket and watched the tents collapse in the dawn light. Hired men came at 6 o'clock to remove chairs, tables, flowers, speakers, and the fake wooden dance floor that had scarred my grass. They did not look at me. Contractors know when a family war is happening. They keep their heads down, take their check, and drive away. Brooke did not come outside. Caleb did not either. The house felt poison with silence. At 9:30, I found a plate oven-touched birthday cake in the refrigerator, wrapped in plastic. The icing was thick and gold. Somebody had piped the words "Future of Whitaker Ranch" across the top. I threw the whole thing in the trash. By noon, the internet had taken over. Brooke posted a photo of the darkened party with the caption, "Some people would rather humiliate their family than let them celebrate." She did not mention my name. She did not have to. Within an hour, comments appeared from cousins who had not visited me in years. "So sad when parents can't let go. Praying for Caleb and Brooke. Elder isolation is real. That poor young couple is just trying to build something. Build something. On my land." Marlene called again, furious on my behalf, but I let it go to voicemail. Then Pastor Ken called. Then my sister-in-law in Dallas. Then a woman from church sent me a message saying, "Ellie, I hope you'll accept help before things get worse." Things had already gotten worse. They just did not know it yet. At 2:15, Caleb came into the kitchen. He looked exhausted, but not sorry. His shirt waist untucked. His hair was damp like he had showered away the party and expected that to wash away what he had said too. "We need to talk," he said. I was at the sink, scrubbing mud from a serving tray that was not mine. "Yes, we do." He leaned against the island. "Brooke is upset. Brooke threatened me on my own lawn. She was emotional. She was honest." He rubbed his face. "Mom, you can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Acting like everyone is trying to take something from you." I turned off the water. "You are trying to take something from me." His eyes sharpened. "I'm trying to save this place." "No. Saving land does not begin with throwing a party behind the owner's back." He took a breath, like a man trying to be patient with a child. I had used that same breath on him when he was 12 and refused to muck stalls. "Look," he said, "Brooke knows people. Investors. Event planners. Hospitality groups. This ranch could become something incredible. A boutique retreat. Weddings, corporate weekends, luxury cabins. We keep the house. We preserve the brand out. We make money." "The brand," I said. "You know what I mean." "I do. That is the problem. Mom, you're sitting on 417 acres 90 minutes from Austin in the hill country. Do you know what that's worth?" "Yes," I said. "It is worth my father's blood, my husband's life, and the childhood I gave you." He slammed his palm on the counter. "That is not a business plan." "No. It is a reason." For a moment, I thought he might cry. Instead, his face hardened. "I'm your only child," he said. "I know. Everything goes to me anyway." There it was again. The sentence behind every smile, every "Mom, we're just trying to help," every dinner Brooke cooked while asking where I kept tax documents. Everything goes to me anyway. "Not if I change my will," I said. Caleb stared. The words surprised him because he had never believed I would say them out loud. "You wouldn't," he said. "I would." "Over one party?" "Over what the party revealed." His voice dropped. "Dad would be ashamed of you." I felt the kitchen tilt. Hank's name in his mouth did something to me. Not because Caleb had no right to say it. He had loved his father too. But because he used Hank like a weapon, like a crowbar to pry open my guilt. "Your father asked me to protect this ranch," I said. "He asked you to protect the family. You are not the same thing as the land." That hit him. I saw it. I also saw that he hated me for it. He walked out without another word. That afternoon, I found the notebook. I was not looking for it. I had gone into the front sitting room to gather the rented candle holders left on my grandmother's table. Brooke had been using that room as her planning space, as she called it, ever since they moved in 5 months earlier. At the time, I told myself it was harmless. A laptop, a printer, fabric samples, mood boards. Young women liked planning things. I was trying, God help me, to be kind. The notebook was open on the sofa. A white leather cover, gold initials. BMW Brooke Madison Whitaker. I should have closed it. I should have called her down and told her to remove her things from my room, but the page facing up had a title written in neat black ink. Whitaker Ranch Legacy Retreat, Phase 1. My hands went cold. I sat down. Under the title were columns. Asset conversion. Guest revenue projections. Owner displacement plan. Emotional resistance points. Owner displacement plan. I read the words 3 times before my mind accepted them. Brooke had listed every building on my property. Main house. Barn. Chapel. Guest cottage. Old bunkhouse. Equipment shed. East pasture. West ridge. Creek bottom. She had notes beside each. Main house, convert upstairs into private bridal suites after EW relocates. Chapel, restore for wedding packages. Bunkhouse, turn into 4 loft suites. East pasture, glamping tents. West ridge, sunset deck. EW can remain in guest cottage during transition if cooperative. Et dopiez-vous. Not mom. Not Eleanor. Initials. Like I was an obstacle on a spreadsheet. Then came another page. Legal options, discuss early transfer due to age/capacity concerns. Explore power of attorney if Caleb can persuade. Medical documentation? Social proof from family event. Public narrative, Caleb trying to preserve property, EW emotionally unstable. My mouth went dry. The party had not been a mistake. It had been evidence. They had invited 100 people to witness me explode, then they would use that explosion to prove I could not be trusted. I kept reading. There was a list of names. Real estate attorneys. Hospitality consultants. Private lenders. One name made me stop. Sterling Creek Development. I knew Sterling Creek. Everybody in the county knew them. They bought old farms, carved them into luxury rural experiences, built black cabins with hot tubs, and sold city people $900 weekend sunsets. They had already tried to buy land from 2 widows near Luckenbach. One had accepted. Her family land now had a gate code and a sign that said members only. At the bottom of the page was a note in Brooke's handwriting. If EW refuses, pressure through Caleb. He needs to believe she is stealing his future. I closed the notebook. Then I opened it again and took photos of every page. He had never been a sneaky woman. My father raised me to look people in the eye. Hank used to say I was honest to the point of inconvenience. But that day, I learned something important. When people plot in the dark, you do not owe them bright behavior. I put the notebook back exactly as I had found it. Then I called Daniel Price. Daniel had been my father's lawyer, then mine, then Hank's after the cancer diagnosis. He was 78, half retired, and still had the kind of voice that could make a banker sit straighter. Ellie, he said. I heard there was trouble. There's going to be more. I met him the next morning in his old office above the hardware store. He had the same wooden desk, the same framed law degree, the same bowl of peppermints he had kept there since I was 19. I brought the photos. He read them in silence. The only sound was the old ceiling fan clicking above us. When he finished, he removed his glasses. How long have they been living with you? 5 months. Did you sign anything? No. Power of attorney? Management agreement? Vendor permission? Anything giving Caleb authority over the ranch? No. Have you let Brooke handle bills? Small household things. Nothing land related. He nodded. Good. Then I said what I had come there to say. I want to change my will. Daniel leaned back. I knew that look. He had seen widows disinherit children before. He had seen regret and rage and grief disguised as paperwork. Are you sure? He asked. I am. Caleb is your only child. He knows that better than anybody. What do you want done? I slid a handwritten page across his desk. He read it. The ranch would not go to Caleb outright. It would be placed into a conservation trust after my death, with the main house preserved as a family residence and the land protected from subdivision, commercial resort development, and private sale. A small working agriculture program would be funded by income from cattle leases and community grants. Local kids could learn soil management, animal care, water conservation, and ranch history. Caleb could apply to work there, live there, even serve one day in a stewardship role, but only if an independent board approved him and only if he respected the restrictions. He could inherit my personal savings, Hank's watch, the family photographs, and a chance. Not the deed. Daniel looked at me for a long time. You understand what this will do? Yes. You understand Caleb may see it as betrayal. He already treated my life as a waiting room for his inheritance. Daniel tapped the page once. This is strong. It will hold if we do it right. But if they're already planning capacity claims, we need more than a new will. We need medical confirmation, witnesses, clean documentation, and no emotional fireworks. I almost smiled. No more parties. No more public explosions, he corrected, they want you to look unstable. Do not help them. For 2 weeks, I became quiet. That frightened Brooke more than anger. She watched me across breakfast like a dog watching a closed door. She offered to make doctor appointments for me. I declined. She asked if I needed help with online banking. I told her I had never needed help spending my own money. She left brochures around the house for aging-in-place support. She told Caleb, loudly enough for me to hear, that stress could worsen memory issues. I wrote everything down. Dates. Times. Comments. Who was present. What was said. Daniel sent me to a doctor in San Antonio for a full cognitive evaluation. I passed. He sent me to another specialist. I passed again. He updated the will with witnesses who had no connection to my family. He drafted the trust language carefully. He filed the conservation intent documents. He told me not to tell Caleb yet. But I did not need to. Brooke found out. I still do not know how. Maybe she looked through my purse. Maybe Caleb saw an email. Maybe somebody at the county office mentioned Daniel had pulled property records. However it happened, they came into the kitchen on a Thursday evening like two people entering a battlefield. Brooke was pale but dressed perfectly, which meant she had prepared. Caleb held a folder. Mom, he said, we need to discuss what you've done. I folded a dish towel and set it beside the sink. You mean protecting my property? He opened the folder and pulled out copies of legal filings. You're trying to get me out. I'm changing how the ranch is handled after I die. I am your son. And I am alive. Brooke laughed once, sharp and ugly. That's a very dramatic way to avoid the truth. I turned to her. The truth is you wrote an owner displacement plan. Her face went blank. Caleb looked at her. Just like that, I knew she had not told him everything. What plan? He asked. Brooke recovered fast. She went through my private notebook. You left it open in my sitting room. What plan? Caleb repeated. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the photos. I held the screen out to him. He read. His expression shifted in pieces. Confusion. Embarrassment, anger, then denial, because denial is the last blanket a guilty man grabs before the cold gets in. These are business notes, Brooke said. Normal development notes. You called me emotional resistance, I said. Caleb's face darkened. Mom, why were you taking pictures of her notebook? Because your wife was planning to move me into my guest cottage. That was hypothetical, Brooke snapped. I looked at Caleb. Did you know about Sterling Creek? He hesitated. That hesitation was the second knife. Brooke touched his arm. Caleb. He pulled away from her just slightly. I knew they were interested, he said. I didn't know she wrote it like that. Like that? I asked. Or at all. He did not answer. Brooke's voice turned cold. This is exactly what I warned you about, Caleb. She twists everything. She spies. She sabotages. She punishes you for wanting a future. I had heard enough. You have 30 days to leave my house, I said. Caleb stared at me as if I had slapped him. Brooke's eyes narrowed. You can't evict your own son. I can evict a tenant who pays no rent and invites developers to my kitchen table. Caleb stepped closer. You throw me out, and I swear to God, I'll fight you. I looked into Heisey's. I wanted to find my child there. I found a man counting acres. Then fight, I said. He did. The petition came 6 days later. Caleb Whitaker and Brooke Whitaker requested emergency review of my capacity to manage the ranch, alleging financial irresponsibility, emotional instability, escalating paranoia, and hostile behavior toward family members. They included screenshots of Brooke's Facebook post, videos of me shutting down the party, statements from 4 guests who said I appeared confused and aggressive, and a written declaration from Caleb claiming I had become obsessed with the past since Hank's death. My son signed that. My son wrote that I was unfit. I sat at my kitchen table reading the papers while Hank's chair sat empty across from me. I did not cry until I saw the last page. They were asking for temporary financial control until the hearing. Temporary. That word can ruin a life. A temporary order can freeze accounts. Temporary authority can become leverage. Temporary humiliation can become permanent if you are too tired to fight. Daniel filed our response immediately. He was angry in a way I had never seen. Quiet anger. Dangerous anger. They're not trying to win clean, he said. They're trying to exhaust you. I'm already exhausted. I know. That's why we don't let them see it. The next 3 weeks were the cruelest of my life. I went to medical evaluations arranged by the court. I answered questions about dates, precedents, bank statements, medication, property taxes, water rights, cattle inventory, estate planning. A young psychologist asked me to draw a clock. I wanted to tell her I had been managing drought cycles longer than she had been alive, but I drew the clock. Brooke testified in a preliminary hearing that she loved me. She wore a cream suit and small pearl earrings and said, "I only want Eleanor safe." Caleb sat beside her, looking miserable but not stopping her. I sat at the other table and learned that humiliation has layers. The party had been one layer. The lawsuit was another. Hearing your child discuss your mind like disputed property is something else entirely. Then, 2 days before the final hearing, I get a call from First Hill Country Bank. The manager, a woman named Denise, sounded nervous. "Mrs. Whitaker, I need to confirm whether you authorized a preliminary land-secured credit application." "No," I said. Silence. "What application?" Another pause. "A development bridge loan secured against approximately 80 acres of Whitaker Ranch." My fingers went numb. "Who signed it?" Denise lowered her voice, "That's why I'm calling. Your signature is on the scanned authorization." I stood in my kitchen, staring through the window at the west ridge where Hank's ashes were buried beneath a cedar tree. "My signature," I repeated. "Yes, ma'am. I didn't sign anything." Denise exhaled. "Then you need to come in today." When I walked into the bank, Daniel was already on his way. Denise took me into a private office and placed the application on the desk. There was my name. Eleanor Ruth Whitaker. The handwriting was close enough to fool somebody who had never seen me sign checks with the same slanted E for 40 years. But it was not mine. Attached was a letter of intent from Sterling Creek Development. Attached was an option agreement. Attached was a projected closing timeline. 48 hours. I read the name on the contact line. Brooke Whitaker. My son's wife had not just planned to take my ranch after I died. She had tried to use my signature while I was still alive. Daniel arrived 12 minutes later, read the documents, and said one sentence I will never forget. "Ellie, they just handed us the match they used to burn themselves." The final hearing was held on a Friday morning, in a courtroom that smelled like old wood, floor polish, and people pretending they were not afraid. I wore a navy dress Hank had once said made me look like I could run for office. My hair was pinned back. I wore my mother's small silver cross, not because I wanted to look innocent, but because I needed to remember I came from women who survived worse men than Caleb had become. Brooke arrived in white. Of course she did. She walked in beside Caleb with a folder pressed to her chest and a face arranged into sympathy. She looked like a woman attending a funeral for someone she had poisoned. Caleb looked thinner than he had 3 weeks earlier. There were dark circles under his eyes. He glanced at me once, then away. That hurt. It also helped. A person who cannot look you in the eye already knows something is wrong. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Patricia Harlan. Everyone in the county knew she had no patience for family theatrics. She began with the capacity issue, and Brooke's attorney stood up like a man who thought he had already won. He spoke about the party. My outburst. My fixation on old property narratives. My sudden hostile estate changes. He said Caleb was not trying to take anything from me, only protect the Whitaker family legacy from impulsive decisions. I watched Caleb when he said that. Protect the family legacy. The same legacy I had called a shrine. Then Daniel stood. He did not perform. He did not raise his voice. He simply walked the judge through my life. Property tax records paid on time for 31 years. Cattle lease contracts. Insurance renewals, repairs. Water permits. Bank statements. The 2 medical evaluations he had arranged before the petition. The court-ordered evaluation. All clean. All confirming I understood my assets, decisions, relationships, and consequences. Then he showed the judge Brooke's notebook. Brooke's face changed before the pages were even admitted. Her attorney objected. Daniel argued relevance. The judge allowed it. I watched Judge Harlan read the phrases that had kept me awake. Owner displacement plan. Medical documentation? Social proof from family event. Public narrative, Caleb trying to preserve property, EW emotionally unstable. The courtroom shifted. Even people waiting for other cases seemed taller and closer. Brooke whispered something to her attorney. Caleb stared at the table. Daniel said, "Your Honor, the party was not proof of instability. It was provocation. The petition was not born from concern. It was built from a business plan." Brooke's attorney stood quickly. "Those notes were preliminary, private, and taken out of context." Judge Harlan looked over her glasses. "Then we will hear the context." Brooke took the stand. "I will give her credit for one thing. She was good. She spoke softly. She said she loved history. She said she wanted the ranch to survive. She said retreat did not mean resort. She said owner displacement was an unfortunate phrase suggested by a consultant. She said I had misunderstood. She said Caleb was under pressure. She said she had only reached out to Sterling Creek for informational purposes." Daniel let her talk. That was his gift. He let liars build tall houses before he removed the foundation. Then he asked, Mrs. Whitaker, did you contact First Hill Country Bank about a development bridge loan? Brooke blinked. Caleb turned his head toward her. Her attorney stood. Relevance? Daniel placed the bank documents on the table. Highly relevant to motive, credibility, and potential exploitation. The judge reviewed them. Brooke's face lost color. For the first time since he had met her, she looked 100% real. Judge Harlan's voice sharpened. Mrs. Whitaker, answer the question. Brooke swallowed. I gathered information. Did you submit an application? I may have forwarded materials prepared by Sterling Creek. Did Eleanor Whitaker sign those materials? Brooke looked at me. There was hatred in her eyes, but under it was panic. I believed Caleb had authority, she said. The sentence landed like a gunshot. Caleb stood halfway up. What? His attorney pulled him down, but the damage was done. Daniel turned to him. Mr. Whitaker, did you have authority to sign on your mother's behalf? Caleb's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Daniel continued, did you tell your wife you had power of attorney? No, Caleb said. Brooke whispered, Caleb. He looked at her like he was seeing a stranger wearing his wife's skin. I said Mom might agree, he said. I never said I could sign for her. Brooke's attorney tried to stop the unraveling, but Daniel had already called Denise from the bank as a witness. She testified that the scanned signature did not come from me, that she called because she knew my signature personally, and that the bank had frozen the application pending investigation. Then Daniel showed the court my real signature from 6 documents, side by side with the forged authorization. Even I could see the difference from 12 feet away. My leaned left at the end because arthritis pulled my hand. The fakie stood too neat, too pretty, too young. A woman in the back whispered, oh my God. Judge Harlan silenced the room. Brooke's attorney requested a recess. The judge gave him 10 minutes. In the hallway, Caleb walked toward me. Daniel stepped slightly in front of me, but I touched his arm. Caleb stopped 4 feet away. His face was gray. Mom, he said. I waited, I didn't know she signed your name. I believed him. That did not make him innocent. No, I said. You only gave her the door. His eyes filled, but he blinked hard. I thought she was helping me. You let her turn me into the enemy so you wouldn't have to admit you wanted what was mine. He looked down. Brooke came out of the courtroom then, saw us, and her panic turned into fury. Do not let her do this, she hissed at Caleb. She is manipulating you. Caleb turned slowly. For one beautiful, terrible second, I saw the boy I raised come back into his own face. No, he said. You are. Brooke stepped back as if he had slapped her. Then the bailiff called us in. The rest happened fast. Judge Harlan dismissed the petition for temporary control. She found no evidence that I lacked capacity. She stated clearly that no adult child had legal right to living inheritance. She referred the forged loan documents to the district attorney for review. She warned Caleb that any further attempt to interfere with my property without authority could result in sanctions. Then Daniel presented the updated estate plan and conservation trust documents, not for approval, because I did not need the court's permission, but to place the truth on record. The ranch would be protected. No luxury cabins. No subdivision. No Sterling Creek gates. No private resort swallowing the West Ridge. No forced move to a guest cottage. No son waiting at my deathbed with a calculator in his hand. Brooke stood before the judge finished reading. Thesis theft, she said, voice shaking. She is stealing our future. Judge Harlan looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, Mrs. Whitaker, you cannot steal what never belonged to you. I closed my eyes. Not because I was relieved. Because if I had kept them open, I might have cried in front of everybody. Outside the courthouse, cameras were waiting. Not news cameras. Phones. Brooke had made our family war public, and now people wanted the ending. I hated them for it, but I also understood the lesson. If someone drags your name into the street, sometimes the truth has to walk out there too. Brooke tried to leave quickly. Caleb did not follow her. She turned on him in the parking lot. You're really going to stand there? After everything I did for you? For me, he asked. Yes, for you. For us. You forged my mother's signature. I was moving the deal forward. There was no deal. There should have been, she snapped. Do you understand what she cost us? That ridge alone could have changed our lives. I saw it happen then. The final curtain dropped from Caleb's eyes. Not because he suddenly became noble. Not because a courtroom washed away greed. But because Brooke had said the quiet part so plainly that even he could not hide behind love anymore. That ridge. Not our family. Not our home. A ridge. A price. A view to sell. Caleb looked at me across the parking lot, and his face broke. I did not go tow him. Some lessons are too expensive to interrupt. Brooke left in a black SUV with her attorney. Caleb stood there alone under the Texas sun. The fallout came in waves. The district attorney opened an investigation. Brooke claimed misunderstanding. Sterling Creek claimed they had relied on information provided by her and had no knowledge of any forged signature. Caleb cooperated, which saved him from worse trouble but did not save his marriage. Brooke filed for divorce 6 weeks later. She moved back to Austin before Labor Day and was seen in photos with a man who owned 3 event venues and a vineyard. People sent me the pictures like I might enjoy them. I did not. I had learned there is no sweetness in watching another woman prove she was exactly as hollow as you feared. Caleb did not come home. For 4 months, he lived in a weekly motel outside New Braunfels and worked for a roofing crew. Marlene told me. Pastor Ken told me. Even the UPS driver found a way to mention it. I told them all the same thing. He knows where the gate is. Booty did not call. A mother can love a child and still refuse to crawl toward him. During those months, the ranch changed. Not in the way Brooke wanted. Daniel introduced me to a nonprofit that helped preserve working land. We created the Whitaker Land Trust officially. We repaired the old chapel and opened it once a month for community talks, not weddings. We cleaned out the bunkhouse and turned it into a classroom. We partnered with the high school's agriculture program. Teenagers came on Saturdays to learn fencing, soil testing, rotational grazing, machinery safety, and how to read weather by more than a phone app. The first morning they arrived, 14 kids stood by the barn in boots too clean to be trusted. I looked at their nervous faces and thought about the phrase Brooke had written. Owner displacement plan. She had wanted to move me out. Instead, her greed moved purpose in. The land became louder in the right way again. Not with party music. With hammers, laughter, cattle gates, questions, and young people arguing over who got to drive the utility cart. I still lived in the main house. I still drank coffee on the porch at 5:40 every morning. I still missed Hank so badly some nights that the bed felt 40 acres wide. Booty no longer felt like a woman guarding a tomb. I felt like a woman holding a match. 8 months after the party, Caleb appeared at the front gate. I saw him from the porch before he pressed the call button. He stood beside an old pickup I did not recognize. He had lost weight. His beard was uneven. His jeans were worn through at one knee. He held his hat in both hands the way he had when he was 9 and confessed he had broken the kitchen window. I did not open the gate right away. I let him stand there. Not to be cruel. To remind myself I had a choice. Finally, I walked down the drive with the old ranch dog, June, limping beside me. Caleb watched us come. His eyes moved over my face, searching for permission he had no right to expect. "Mom," he said through the gate. I stopped on my side. "What do you want?" Heswallowed. "I'm not here for the ranch." I said nothing. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me. "No," I said. "It doesn't." He nodded like he'd deserved that. "I'm here to apologize." I looked past him at the road. The same road where 100 cars had lined up for a party meant to erase me. "Apologies are easy at gates," I said. Harder inside. "I'll say it here, then." His voice shook. "I let Brooke McKean believe your life was blocking mine. I let her talk about you like you were a problem to solve. But I wanted to believe it. That's the part one can't blame me in her." I felt something move in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet, something older. Grief changing shape. He kept going. "When Dad died, I didn't know what to do with this place. You did. You always did. And instead of respecting that, I was ashamed that I didn't. Brooke made me feel like I could become important if I turned the ranch into something big." "It was already big," I said. "I know. No. You didn't. But maybe you can learn." He wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand. "I got a job at a feed warehouse. It's not much. I brought money." He lifted an envelope. "It's $3,200. I know it doesn't cover what I cost you. Legal fees, repairs from the party, all of it. I'll pay more every month." I looked at the envelope. Then I looked at my son. There are moments when mercy tries to disguise itself as weakness. You have to be careful. Open the gate too fast, and you teach the wrong lesson. Keep it closed forever, and you become the very bitterness you survived. "Keep the money," I said. His face fell. "You need rent. Food. Gas. Work boots that don't leak." "Mom, I didn't say you were forgiven." He went still. I said keep the money. He nodded slowly. "If you want to come back," I said, "you do not come back as an owner. You do not come back as my heir. You do not come back with opinions about development, investors, branding, or what this land could be worth to strangers. I understand." "No, Caleb. You listen." My voice got sharper, and June lifted her head. "You come back at the bottom. You show up when the students show up. You clean stalls. You fix fence. You haul feed. You keep your mouth shut unless someone asks you a question. You do not sleep in the main house. You do not bring lawyers, girlfriends, business partners, or dreams wrapped in greed through this gate." Tears ran down his face. "Yes, ma'am," he said. The words nearly broke me. He had not called me ma'am since he was a teenager trying to get out of trouble. I opened the gate. Not wide. Just enough. He stepped through like a man entering church after years away. I did not hug him. He did not ask me to. That first Saturday, Caleb mucked stalls beside two high school boys who had no idea he had once tried to take the whole ranch. One of them told him he was stacking hay wrong. Caleb listened. I watched from the barn door and felt Hank somewhere near me, laughing softly. Weeks passed. Caleb came every Saturday. Then some Wednesdays after work. He repaired the east fence he used to complain about. He replaced boards on the bunkhouse porch. He learned the names of the kids. He stopped saying "my dad's ranch" or "our property." He said "your place," and later, slowly, "the land." One afternoon in late spring, I found him by the West Ridge. For a second, fear rose in me. That ridge had become a wound. The view Brooke wanted to sell. The place Hank's sashes rested. Caleb stood under the cedar tree with his hat against his chest. "I never came up here after Dad died," he said when I approached. I was mad at him for leaving. Then I was mad at you for staying strong. I wasn't always strong. You looked like it. That's because you needed me to. He cried then. Not like I'm on trying to get something. Not like a boy trying to escape punishment. He cried like someone finally seeing the grave he had been stepping over. I stood beside him. The wind moved through the cedar. Below us, the ranch spread out in late afternoon light. The barn. The house. The pastures. The chapel. The classroom where kids were painting a sign that read Whitaker Land Trust. Caleb looked at it for a long time. "You really saved it," he said. "No," I answered. "I stopped you from selling it. Saving it is going to take longer." He turned to me. "Do you think I can help?" That was the first right question he had asked in years. "I think you can, Terry." He nodded. I touched his shoulder. Not an embrace. Not forgiveness tied with a ribbon. Just my hand on my son's shoulder, warm through his shirt, while the land held us both. Today, I still live in the old stone house. The ranch no longer belongs only to my bloodline, and that no longer feels like failure. It belongs to memory, work, kids with clean boots learning to get them dirty, and people who understand that land isn't inherited by wanting it. It is inherited by serving it. Brooke is gone. Her name is not spoken much here. Sterling Creek never came near my gate again. The county still remembers the case, because people remember family drama longer than sermons. Sometimes strangers ask if I regret cutting Caleb out of the deed. I tell them the truth. I did not cut my son out of love. I cut greed out of the inheritance. There is a difference. Caleb still comes through the gate. He still works from the bottom. Some days I see the man who betrayed me. Some days I see the child who brought me wildflowers from the creek bank and called them treasure. Most days, I see both, and I am learning to live with that. Forgiveness, I have learned, is not turning the lights back on for people who threw a party over your silence. Sometimes forgiveness is keeping the gate unlocked, but making them walk in on foot. That night, when I shut off the generator, everyone thought I ended a birthday party. They were wrong. I ended the rehearsal for my erasure. And in the dark, with 100 strangers staring at me like I had lost my mind, I finally saw the truth bright enough to save me. A mother can love her son with her whole heart and still take the keys from his hand when he tries to steal the house she built.